While a lot of notable people don't even consider rap to be a legitimate form of music, I want to take this time to discuss a genre that has pushed that barrier far further than any other genre. We're talking about noise music, of course. Now we can talk about how we got here all day. We can start with Luigi Russolo with his weird contraption that made everyone very upset with his futuristic Dadaist noise. We could even jump to John Cage with his 4 minutes and 33 seconds of rest that he wrote, also making us question what is music. But I don't think we need to read any books to really know what music is. And we need to look no further than our earliest humans. Before we had music theory or instruments, someone had to start somewhere. Sticks, rocks, whatever they had, song and dance around the fire. That's how I imagine it. I mean, in general, the definition of music is an art form and cultural activity whose medium is sound organized in time. That is very loose. It's a very loose definition, and one that I have to agree with wholeheartedly. It goes on to say elements like pitch are important, harmony, melody, rhythm, timbre, tempo, meter, dynamics. But we're gonna call those common elements. And by common element, we're not talking about a necessity for it to be called something. So while we can throw out common musicians who have utilized noise in some way into their craft, we have to admit that music has always been just noise. Maybe a better definition is that it's noise that is under some direction or some control by someone or something. So that's why after years of sophistication and theory and all the different instruments we've created to make music, we've seemed to have shied away from this idea that it is just noise and it's just arranged by a human. After all that sophistication came into play, then we start having different fans of different genres criticizing the others for taking shortcuts or doing things that don't count as music. We're broaching on the whole, if it's computerized, it's not music territory. While I want to talk about noise, I think we have to talk about all of these other common arguments people make against music they don't like. And one big thing is that, oh, you're just pushing buttons. Electronic music is not music. There's a thing with buttons, so I pushed that and maybe I played some Beethoven. Just pushing buttons, that's not music, right? And you say no, because you're doing stuff, you're playing notes, it takes talent. That's a piano, that's not a computer. And I'd say this actually is a computer, because there's no sounds in this thing. This is what you call a MIDI controller. You have to plug this into a computer, and only then will you be at a place where you can say, I want you to make this piano sound. So you have to program it. It's a computer, but it's an instrument. And I don't think these arguments hold their own when you look at it that way, because I don't think these people are listening to purely acoustic music. That argument falls apart right then and there. What about this thing? Does that sound good? No, you know why? Because it's not plugged in. It sounds like garbage. That's why we amplify it. And that's why we plug in one of these. But this thing right here, this is also a computer. This is a purely digital amplifier. It's taking the signals produced by this item and it's modulating it inside this box here and then reproducing that sound into what hits your eardrums. all that's besides the point. I think it's convenient for us to classify one thing as noise and one thing as music for the purposes of knowing what's pleasing and what's not. You know, noise has a negative connotation to it. It's something unwanted, it's unpleasing, it's distorting the airwaves. It's not something you want, where music is something pleasing, that's what you want to hear. This is where noise music comes into play, because for one, it definitely subverts expectations for what music is, and it also requires a completely different approach to listening to it. It also just pushes the barriers to pave way for more experimentation. Whether you're here because you're into noise music or whether you're here because you've never heard of it, it is a genre with numerous subgenres within it, all with their different stylistic characteristics and traits that make them distinct and what would make someone want to listen to this music. Commonly, you'd want to listen to something you find pleasing and enjoyable, and frankly, noise music doesn't cut it for a lot of people. And myself, admittedly, I'm not that well versed in the genre. I haven't spent nearly as much time learning about noise and listening to noise than I have in other genres that my parents would also call noise, but completely different genres when you get down to the nitty-gritty. I always maintained music that may have used noise as an element to it, something added on to it to give it some rawness, some character maybe. It was never noise for purely noise purposes. Recently, I've been listening to a lot of noise. I've been coming around to it. I see the appeal. It's not something I would put on all the time. It's something like other albums. You have to be in a certain state of mind to really get there and let it grab you. Because at the end of the day, you know, electronic music, you're pushing buttons. The setups for a lot of noise bands looks like a bunch of different pedals and components and gear, much like you'd see out of the EDM artist, although they're kind of making it a little more compact nowadays. But a lot of different tools in their in the toolbox to help them make the statement they're trying to make. And if you watch my last video on abstract art, that is all art is. It is this communication to evoke some type of mood or feeling. And music we seem to place differently, because I don't think that's much different than noise music. You could say I threw that together. You could say noise sounds like it's thrown together, especially if you get into what's called harsh noise, which is noise brought to the most extreme conclusion it can go to, and that is the most polarizing and brutal and harsh sound ever. And several of those clips I played at the beginning were from harsh noise artists. But yeah, for me, I listened to abrasive music, but it had, you know, rhythm and drums, and it had characteristics that match that of, you know, contemporary music, with the sole difference being the aggressiveness of it maybe. But the way I see it, the way I hear it, if we have these three corners of challenging music, we have ambient music, we have drone music, and we have noise. All three of those genres require a similar approach to the listening experience, and that's full immersion into the sound. They're not genres that give you instant gratification. Ambient music might be the easiest to approach because it's not trying to tear out your eardrum with a knife. And drone music can sometimes sound like a bad air conditioner or motor or something that needs replaced. And when I was preparing for this video, I went on a Facebook page into the harsh noise group, and I asked everyone in there, what do you like about this genre? The first comment was my favorite, and they said it exhilarates without catharsis. And I thought that was kind of profound, because one criticism that can be immediately had is that noise music does not have dynamics, or at least in a very traditional sense. Sure, there's sometimes quiet and loud parts, but I always liked music that had build-ups and payoffs, and where ambient, drone, and noise all seem to come together in their purest form, those genres, no adjectives. Where they come together is by giving you no payoff. What you're presented with in the beginning is what is constantly given to you throughout the entire piece. So it's almost different than normal music, where you're experiencing different elements within time. where when you're getting something that's just the same, it's almost like you're looking at a painting. And why I can maybe make a comparison between an abstract piece and ambient or noise or drone music. I find that to be brilliant because these musicians are able to capture a moment in time without necessarily making you have to experience it in time. Other commenters said that it's actually relaxing to them. It jumbles things up a bit and just kind of puts them in this like relaxed state. I guess you could maybe think of it as the musical equivalent to taking a cold shower, just giving you that real kick in the tush in the morning for your day. Hey, it certainly makes itself known to you. Listen to a band called Sunn. And Sunn is a drone band, textbook drone. There's no payoff. When I first heard it, I said, this sounds like a band playing an intro into a song that never begins. It surrounds you in this cacophony of sound that covers you. Not like a claustrophobic way. I mean, it depends on how loud you play and how close you are to the speakers. Don't do that. This whole anticipation for something that never comes. For one, I actually listened to like a long period of it despite me not enjoying it. Well, it put me in this place where my idea of what music was completely turned on its head, and I was forced to kind of reevaluate what was so compelling about music in the first place. That I can't say this isn't music. Certainly sound, they have stretched it to its limit by taking out these common elements that are so intrinsic to what at that time I had known music to be, and clearing the slate for me a little bit, and it kind of opened a pathway up for me to listen to a lot of more challenging music. So I will always say, if you're a fan of music, challenge yourself, go out there. No one's telling you have to stick to like the genre you grew up with, or maybe your favorite genre, or just because you like the artist you have to keep liking them. Like there's this kind of weird sense of loyalty we have. Music's music. I can play this note, or I can scrape my pick down it. I can drag a knife across it. However I choose to arrange those sounds was my intention. I'm still creating something. It might not be pleasing, or listenable, or good. But at the end of the day, it's still music. So to hammer it home, I'm going to make a noise track. I'm recording it right now in my computer. I'm going to do that right here. I will go ahead and upload it to a music site. I could do iTunes too, but that costs me money, but I might do my Bandcamp. Anyway, it'll be a free download, so no one will lose any money if they don't want to hear that. So just to make it official, you know, we're making music, I'm recording it. It's not a podcast, it's not an audiobook, it's a song. It just doesn't do what you think it should do, so that's fine. I might even light the guitar on fire. I'm not that edgy. That was pretty fun. So after hearing that, I encourage you, if you've ever thought something wasn't music, to go back and listen to whatever it was you thought wasn't music and compare it to what I performed, and I think we'll have no problems.